Boston, Massachusetts for the 44th all-time meeting between UMass Boston and Tufts University. The Jumbos have dominated the all-time series, but a year ago it was UMass Boston with the big-time upset. Beacons looking to make it 2 in a row despite having a depleted squad in tonight's matchup. We'll take a commercial break and bring you our pregame show right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in and a woman in a long gown, and it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Welcome back courtside. UMass Boston with a huge win a year ago, 76-74, upsetting the number 5 team in the nation at Cousins Gymnasium over in Medford, Massachusetts. It was Sam Freeman proving to be the hero. The final 2 points of his 26-point performance with 1.9 seconds left. A step-back jumper over 6'8" Tom Pileski to give the Beacons their final lead in that one. The Beacons had led by quite a few, 7 points with a minute and a half to go. Tufts stormed all the way back, but Freeman secured the win for UMass Boston. Their first since 2004. That one came at home. UMass Boston hasn't won back-to-back games against this Jumbos team since 1982-83. They trail in the all-time series 33-10. They'll look to do something about that tonight, as UMass Boston's going to have to rely heavily on James Hawkins Jr. The senior big man and Bridgewater State University transfer might get his first start of the season for UMass Boston with Kevin Lewis-Jean, a potential late scratch. Lewis-Jean dealing with an injury, was warming up. We're not quite sure whether he'll go or not. He's not in the starting lineup. That means that Hawkins, a guy who's done pretty well in limited minutes this year, is going to have the onus of guarding some of the big men for this Tufts team. Hawkins has rebounded extremely well this year, but foul trouble's been the issue. See if he can stay out there for quite a bit longer than we're used to seeing in this one. Right now, we'll take a look at the highlights from last year's game, courtesy of JumboCast, as the Beacons earned that big 76-74 win over the Jumbos.
Here's the freshman Alex Sanchez from Salem, Massachusetts. There's Freeman.
It's a good shot right there.
So one game handily, as here's Sam Freeman. Guarded by Pileski. Pileski gets his arm up. Freeman's shot is wayward, but it'll be put in on the second effort by number 23, Dan Powers.
This is the man you want to run the offense through right here.
That's a steal there. Easter Barnes, he's got a breakaway. No one guarding him, and he'll get that layup.
Someone who doesn't play above the rim, but just has such great foot.
Let's go!
Has a knack for putting the ball in the basket.
Sanchez with a little nutmeg there to get it to his teammate Freeman. Angle again. And that'll be tipped down by number 10. Herrera there on the tip.
Beacons won. Over the floor.
And long from Caesar, and he'll make that 3. And that's Sanchez with a layup. Ball down with Barnes.
Good rebound by Madsen there, keeping the ball alive.
Barnes taking it all the way. Sanchez. Caesar looks at the 3, but decides against him.
Risky Jumbo's length really causing problems. That's a great take.
Sanchez and Smith is going to start this counterattack. Everett Dayton. Freeman can't get up to Drew Madsen. And Powers gets his arm in there, and he'll take this, and Sanchez will try and use his speed to hit the basket, and he does. And Sanchez is going to let this run down a bit. Powers from 3.
Really tough shot.
And Madsen gets his hand in front of that pass, intended for Freeman, and Dayton's on the break.
Great play by Barnes there.
Mini pace.
Game breaking down a little bit here.
Barnes from 3 uncontested, and he'll make that.
Days in the zone, his man zone here.
Powers from 3. We saw him make one at the end of the half. He makes one at the start of the second.
Brought down a basketball hoop at they were at.
And rejected is Eric Savage by Dan Powers there, but the Jumbos stick with it. Yeah, Bob Shelton, I was talking to him earlier in the season, as a foul is called there.
That's his game right there. He likes that mid-range shot.
Here's Freeman, and he'll get that again. Dan Powers driving the basket, and he'll get that to go.
And provided no instant.
Speaking of athletic, Sam Freeman will get that one to go for 2 points. Sam Freeman will take the shot. Defended well from Patrick Racy, but it'll go in off the tip from Kirksey.
Rebounder. Limit the number
the jumbos like that one. Neil Caesar driving, beats out Tariq Smith, and he'll get the layup. Here's Meister Barnes from the free throw line again. Kareem Kirksey on the second chance. Takes the pace back into the game to place Garrett. And that's an interception from Alex Sanchez. He's all alone, and he's going to get that to go.
Big things in this team. Great play by Everett Dayton.
Tariq Smith from three, and he makes it!
Jumbo's struggling a lot.
Jumbo's looking for the three. Tariq Smith again. And Tariq Smith, nothing but net here.
Again to Freeman.
8 seconds left. They're going to try and win it here or go to overtime. Freeman getting close to the basket. Guarded by Pileski. And it's Sam Freeman with 2 points. 1.9 seconds remaining. Looks like he's going to go long.
Long, bigger.
Pace takes the shot. And it's short, and the UMass Boston Beacons have upset the number 5 ranked Tufts Jumbos with a score of 76-74.
UMass Boston with a 76-74 win a year ago, but when you look at these two rosters, not a lot of players back from last year's game. The Beacons just have one starter available from a year ago, 3 total players who played in that game for Tufts. 2 of their starters back, 5 total players. So it's a very different group that we'll see today, Steve. Both of these teams coming off big wins. For UMass Boston, a nice one over Pine Manor on Tuesday. Last night, Tufts played in their 3rd game in 5 days. Today, their 4th and 6th. They were down big at halftime to Emerson. A late comeback, and no surprise, it was Vincent Pace, who has just been going off the last couple weeks. 30 in the win last night, including a game-tying 3 and a layup. He also hit a game-winning 3 on Sunday against Brandeis. Hit his 1,000th point the other week against MIT. This is a senior from Bridgewater, New Jersey, who is having quite the senior season.
Yeah, when looking at the Beacons, obviously you talked about Tufts playing back-to-back 4 in 6 days. The Beacons are banged up as well. You talked about Lewis Jean, obviously got a concussion. Charlie Mitchell was hurt in the last game against Pine Manor College, and Bernard Taylor, a good 3-point shooter off the bench. So it's going to be tough for the Beacons, especially because Ty Lee didn't play last game, and we don't know if he's going to play this game. Right now it looks like he is not warming up with the team, so you don't know if he's going to play or not. Obviously, it's going to be a tough one against this great Jumbo team, especially since it's their last game in 6 days.
Yeah, this Tufts team has gone through the gauntlet over the last couple days. A big weekend this past weekend, the Big Four Challenge. They lost to Salem State at home, and Salem State actually ended up winning that tournament over Babson. That was a game that Tufts was up big at the half, up by 14, ended up giving up that big lead. Then Sunday, the winner at the buzzer from Pace, and then a game last night against Emerson. Some interesting scheduling for Tufts. For UMass Boston, Kevin Lewis-Jean was in the concussion protocol. Appears that he may have passed the test as he is warming up but not in the starting lineup. Right now, let's take a look at the team stats. And Steve, this is a Tufts team that likes to score the ball, 80.8 points per game. The interesting thing is, and it doesn't show up there on the stats, neither of these teams shoot free throws particularly well. So if we do have a close game like we had a year ago, Tufts comes in, I think it's 63%, UMass Boston at 64%. So that could be an interesting thing to watch. And the big thing, Steve, as it's been every single game, the rebounding battle. UMass Boston, such a small team. They don't have a lot of size overall, and they play a lot of guys who are under 6 foot. This Tufts team, they're big, they're long, but they don't rebound the ball all that well, at least against strong competition thus far that they faced. Just plus 2.8 rebounds per game.
Yeah, UMass Boston, very small, but also very scrappy. So when you look at the points per game, something that could really benefit UMass, obviously Tufts playing all these games in 6 days, something they could really benefit them is what they've really done all years, and that is push the pace. Obviously a couple point guards out, but they're still going to have to push the pace if they want to compete at a high level against a very good Tufts University team, but also in the favor of Tufts University getting to the line because they are playing such a smaller team in UMass Boston.
Yeah, even Tufts, some of their guards go 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". They're a team that has a couple bigs who are at 6'8", but their top rebounders are actually some of their guards. Take a look at the team leaders right now for UMass Boston. Charles Mitchell has been phenomenal, a really volume scorer this season, leads the LAC in terms of 3-point attempts. If Lewis Jean isn't available, that's tough. He shot the ball so well. Dason Sinelli, one of those guard/forwards for UMass Boston, the swingman, leading the Beacons, and had a huge game the other night, 16 points and 14 rebounds. For Tufts, all season long, it's been a combination of two players, Vincent Pace, the senior, and Eric Savage, the sophomore guard out of Brunswick, New Jersey, filling up the stat sheet. Those two guys are first and second in points, rebounds, and steals, first and third in assists. I mean, really, it starts with those two, and you have guys who are listed at 6'6" and 6'3". For them to be first and second in rebounds, that says a lot about their hustle.
Yeah, the numbers of those two players have to be in UMass Boston's head tonight, really trying to dominate them on the defensive side. But also, when you kind of look at UMass Boston, they hit a season-high 12 three-pointers last game, and that really has to happen again if they want to get the elite scoring that they can have. But when you look at the scores for this team, Boyd, Sinelli, and Charles Mitchell having a great year. He was handling the ball a little more without Ty Lee last game, so it should be interesting if he's in that position again where he's kind of running point and also facilitating the floor.
Tufts is riding their 6 seniors hard this year. 2 of them have not played in a game yet due to injuries, but still 4 seniors, all of whom have started, 3 of whom have been in the starting lineup pretty much every game. UMass Boston has 3 total seniors on the roster, only one of which was on the team a season ago. They have had to ride the youth. It's been an interesting roller coaster ride. Jason Harris jokes about it sometimes that it's taken years off his life, but it's a really promising future for this UMass Boston team. You mentioned all those guys, freshmen or sophomores, that we've talked about thus far. Right now, we're going to take a look at the Tufts University head coach, and this is a guy who has been there for a really long time. You look at Tufts University coach Bob Sheldon, 30 seasons with the Jumbos, as he's currently just off camera sitting down behind one of his assistant coaches. And you look at Bob Sheldon, 436 and 306. First time under Sheldon that the team made back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. 2 years ago, an Elite Eight appearance. They lost to Amherst last season, losing the Sweet 16 to eventual national champion Babson. 5 total NCAA tournament appearances, which doesn't sound like all that many, but when you're in the NESCAC and there's so much competition, it does say quite a bit. And this program has finished in the top 10 each of the past 2 years. On the other side, UMass Boston's coach, you're talking about a young guy. Jason Harris for UMass Boston in his 3rd season. Had some success with the Beacons, 24 and 35, a winning season a year ago, leading the Beacons to their first LEC semifinal in about a decade. And he's hoping that this young roster is going to lead to some of those NCAA tournament banners up on the Clark Athletic walls.
Yeah, and it's been exciting first half of the year. Obviously, a tough loss against MIT, then a tough loss against Keene State. But I think we saw how versatile this team and the young guys really are, especially last game against Pine Manor College, with a lot of different guys handling the ball and a lot of different guys scoring as well.
We're going to take a commercial break for the national anthem, then we'll be back with the starters and the keys to today's contest.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, and I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Right now we're going to take a look at the Tufts University Jumbo starters on your screen. And Steve, looking at this side, Thomas Latham, the senior guard out of Manhattan Beach, California, has had a really nice season after playing just 8.2 minutes a game last year, playing nearly 27 minutes a game. We've talked about Vincent Pace, the team's leading scorer, 30 points last night at Emerson. Eric Savage has been a savage this season, averaging a phenomenal stat line of 17.9 points, 8.8 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 1.5 steals. He's first in rebounds, steals, and assists, second in points. They're also going to go with Patrick Racy, the big man and heir apparent to Tom Pileski. Sophomore center out of Ridgefield, Connecticut, stands at 6'7", 215. Everett Dayton, a guy who does a bit of everything, 11 rebounds, 5 assists last night to go along with 1 point. And the one surprise is Will Brady. Brady making his first start of his freshman season, 8 games thus far, 10.1 minutes per game. He'll get the rare start tonight for the freshman guard who stands at 6'1", 190.
Yeah, and I think looking at the starting lineup for Tufts University, I mean, this is a huge mismatch at the guard position against the UMass Boston guards. Obviously, when you're talking about the guards for UMass, you have Charles Mitchell, Boyd, and maybe Iser Barnes, and those guys are 5'10" and under. These gentlemen on Tufts University, 6'6", 6'3", at guard. I mean, sometimes in D3, you're usually talking about that size, either at a forward position or a center.
Really quickly, we'll bring in the UMass Boston starters. They'll introduce themselves.
James Hawkins, senior forward from West Medford, Massachusetts.
Isaac Barnes, combo guard, senior, Roxbury, Mass.
Charles Mitchell, shooting guard, freshman, Roxbury, Mass.
Daisy Sinelli, sophomore guard / forward, Boston, Massachusetts.
Michael Boyd, freshman, guard, Malden, Mass.
UMass Boston, the home white uniforms with the blue trim and blue numbers. Tufts in the Carolina blue with the brown numbers and white trim is taking the tip and winning it back there. For Tufts University is Patrick Racy, the 6'7" center. UMass Boston, the man-to-man. Barnes currently on the ball, working against Vincent Pace down low. Left a little bit short there by Racy, and the rebound into the hands of Barnes, who had 15 points a year ago for UMass Boston against Tufts.
And I'm going to come out and say it. I think these heights are a little skewed looking at kind of the matches on the floor. I think they're a little
maybe a little height inflation on the Tufts roster.
I do think so.
Hawkins able to find Barnes just shy of the elbow, kicks it across for Charles Mitchell, up top for Boyd. Steps in and he'll take a long two that's a bit too strong. Rebound finds its way into the hands of Savage, whose pass is tipped out of bounds by Sinelli.
I mean, you were talking about the gentleman being 6'7", and he lines up perfectly with Hawkins at 6'4".
And I think Hawkins is 6'4". The hair maybe gives him a little bit of added height. James Hawkins Jr., the senior out of West Medford, Mass. in his first year with the Beacons, former Bridgewater State player. Down low, a difficult area there for Sinelli, who's just at 6'1". Great pass, finds its way to Racy, and Hawkins rejects that one into the hands of Michael Boyd.
And he did a great job last game and kind of facilitating the offense and defense in the pace. Obviously playing a very fast-paced Pine Manor, and he slowed it down and played very good defense last game.
Barnes looks like he'll man the point at least to start with no Ty Lee and Charlie Mitchell available. Michael Boyd, 6 of 9 from behind the arc the other night. Has it. He'll take another long two. That one hits the front of the rim. Rebound loose. Hawkins grabs the offensive board. Goes up with the right hand. Can't finish. Charles Mitchell with the rebound. Finds its way to Boyd. Over to Hawkins. Kicks it out to Mitchell. And the Beacons will take a new 30. Charles Mitchell draws contact off the mark. And Steve, that's a waste of possession. The Beacons had 4 chances, unable to put the first points on the board.
Yeah, and Sinelli was absolutely wide open at the top of the key.
Latham with the deep three is off the mark. Tapped out of bounds by Racy. It's been an interesting first minute 46.
And interesting to watch who's at point for the Beacons, because having Iser Barnes at point frees up the shot for Charles Mitchell and Boyd, which were red hot when we were talking about 12 three-pointers last game.
UMass Boston, a season high in three-pointers and three-point field goal percentage after really struggling to shoot the ball on Saturday against Keene State in a big loss. Into the corner for Hawkins, not a big-time score. He'll look to post up against Racy there. Boyd over for Charles Mitchell with 8 on the shot clock. Back up top for Boyd, the Malden Catholic product at the elbow. Has to give it up, finds Charles Mitchell from the wing. His three is too strong. Still scoreless through the first 2:15 in this one.
scoreless through the first 2:15, and obviously a couple missed layups, but Beacon's getting off good shots, quality shots, and that's what you want to see, especially from a different paced Tufts team.
Dayton finds Eric Savage from the wing, looks to drive, kicks it back out for Latham, who missed the last three. There is another miss from Patrick Racy, 0 for 3 in the early going. So he tried to extend his game out beyond the free throw line. Charles Mitchell looks to drive, goes all the way through the baseline, but didn't have an option. The Beacons will set up with 20 on the shot clock. Barnes looks to drive, find his way into the paint, well off the mark there, and Patrick Racy grabs the rebound. 3 minutes in, neither team has scored. These two teams came in averaging over 140 per game combined. It's Racy working down low, kicks it out for Latham. Latham to the baseline, wide open three for Eric Savage, and he's off the mark. Rebound finds its way into the hands of Racy from 6 feet. He can't convert. And Steve, we're 44 seconds away from the media timeout, potentially still scoreless.
Yeah, and you know what the UMass Boston isn't doing right now that they usually do well is transition baskets and kind of push the pace. Right now, it seems like they're kind of falling into this half-court
Charles
offense.
Mitchell all the way with the left hand, and there's no love from the rims in this one. A good look from the freshman from Boston. Racy with another chance, blocked by Hawkins. He's got 2 in the early going. The Beacons with a rare transition chance. Ahead for Barnes, stripped away. Great defense from Everett Dayton. That was our first turnover of the game, and UMass Boston still hanging with Tufts thus far. A 0-0 game. Down low, big mismatch there over Hawkins, and the second effort will lead to our first free throw opportunity. Good work from Vincent Pace there. So we'll get our media timeout first. But Steve, some more thoughts.
Did the facilities put a
curse?
On the, yeah,
a curse on the rims?
I don't know if it was a curse on the rims or just, something's over it, a glass plate that it just doesn't let the ball go in.
I don't know. We'll find out with a couple of free throws upcoming for Vincent Pace. But first, a commercial break as UMass Boston and Tufts knotted at zeros through the first 4:01.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
So, Steve, we'll take a moment to look at our keys to the game, and already those might not be as important, but match Tuesday's intensity. That the Beacons played much better in that one. Keep pace out of the lane for the most part, and the Bigs need to avoid early foul trouble. That's the only one negative for UMass Boston thus far.
Yeah, and Hawkins, I think he's having a career game right now. Honestly, it's in the first 4 minutes, but he's playing, first of all, great on defense. Obviously, he just checked out, but great on defense and is taking the ball to the hoop and being a little aggressive on offense, and that's what they need out of him tonight.
So UMass Boston's going to make a couple of changes out of the media timeout. Hawkins and Barnes, the two seniors, will step out. They're replaced by a pair of freshmen. This Beacons team is mostly freshmen. It's going to be John Tessin and Dennis Houghton, a pair of players who don't see a ton of time. Vincent Pace, the senior, knocks down the first, too strong in the second, and ends up grabbing his own rebound as the ball was tapped out by the 6'8", 250 Max Oppenheim. Make it a 3-point possession, all going to Vincent Pace. So the senior knocks down the lane, and Barnes will immediately head to the scorer's table.
Yeah, and this is something that's going to be tough tonight for the Beacons, is they don't have a lot of depth. So a different night, maybe have Louis Jean coming off the bench and other individuals like that can kind of give them a break, like Hawkins and stuff like that. But this is tough to see, especially this early in the game.
Yeah, Dennis Houghton, a guy we haven't seen a ton of, will head to the line. The freshman guard out of Gardner, Mass., attended Cushing Academy. This is going to be his first free throw attempt of his collegiate career, as Houghton will send a line drive off the front of the rim, back of the rim, and off the mark. 4 points this year in about 33 total minutes, averaging 8.8 minutes per game. Played 3 minutes the other night in the win over Pine Manor, and he will go 1 of 2. So the Beacons on the board just about 4.5 minutes in. It's 3-1 Tufts. Tufts made another substitution in between free throws. There's a pass down low for Pace. They brought in Miles Bowser, the sophomore out of Charlotte, New North Carolina. Day Cincinnati rebounds it, loses it off the back there of Tessin, but the Beacons still control.
It's something the Beacons are doing a great job of tonight is rebounding, and that's one of the reasons why they're really in this game right now.
Tessin tries his hand at the baseline jumper a bit too strong. Not a guy who's scored a lot, but the Beacons are going to need scoring today with 4 of their top 8 rotation players unavailable. There's the 3 that we were expecting. Vincent Pace has all 6 for Tufts, 6 points in the last 2 possessions. On the season, 10 of 40 from behind the arc, 2 of 5 last night against Emerson. Pass down low for Sinelli, and it's stripped away, out of bounds off the hands of Savage.
Yeah, and you see it on some of these 3-pointers, the guards for the Beacons are really flocking to the paint to really help out because they do have a lot of mismatches in the paint, but that just creates open opportunities up top of the key.
You got to pick your poison if you're UMass Boston. Already the Beacons a small team with no Kevin Lewis-Jean. That ball's thrown away. Miscommunication on the Beacons side. Going the other way with good speed. And one opportunity is Everett Dayton as the Beacons turn it over in the worst possible spot in the middle of the court, leading to a Tufts fast break and a chance to make this a 9-1 game as the senior out of Pacific Palisades, California, will head to the line for 1 free throw.
Yeah, and something to watch tonight is kind of who is handling the ball for the Beacons, and that's what they really have to solidify. I understand you have Charlie Mitchell out, Ty Lee out, Lewis-Jean out, but they have to have someone that can really carry the ball and not turn it over for easy baskets such as that.
The Beacons will bring 2 of the starters back in, Barnes and Hawkins, Sinelli and Houghton to the bench. As Everett Dayton knocks down the first, he came in just 5 of 10 from behind the charity stripe. Tufts making another substitution into the game for the first time, Justin Kuyujin, the freshman guard out of La Canada, California. Barnes drives, Tessin will try it again from the same spot, front rim this time, rebound into the hands of Dayton. Tessin is not a big scorer for UMass Boston, but he's taken a couple of early looks. This is certainly the earliest he's gotten into a game for the Beacons this season. Kicked across for Kuyujin, and now it's handled by Everett Dayton, who just had a 3-point play. He'll take the long 2, front rim no good. Rebound tapped into the hands of Boyd, and he'll look to push the pace here.
And that's something that's going to be very exciting about the UMass Boston Beacons is they can get the rebounds, the scrappy rebounds and stuff like that right there, resulting into a little bit of a transition opportunity.
Iser Barnes will head to the line for 2. A good feed from Michael Boyd. Got up in the air, was able to hold for a while, but couldn't convert the potential and 1. Barnes, the senior guard out of Boston, Mass, can't hit the first. The Beacons now 1 of 3 from the free throw line. Still looking for that first field goal of the day. On the season, Barnes 1 of 3 from the free throw line. Has been seeing more and more time as he's gotten back into game shape. 3 points, 3 rebounds the other night in 23 minutes. 0 for 2, and the Beacons' deficit is still 8. Into the front court with it and losing it was Miles Bowser. Tessin across for Barnes, looks to drive underneath amongst the trees, too strong with the up and under, and another missed opportunity for the Beacons, who have not been able to convert some of these layup looks. They've been contested, but still high percentage shots if you can just get that angle you're looking for.
Yeah, we haven't seen Tessin much this year. You know, he's taken a couple shots today, obviously carrying it up half court. Definitely the Beacons are going to be going deep into their bench tonight.
Justin Kuyujin, the sharpshooter out of La Canada, California, knocks down the 3 wide open from the wing, and that'll force the Beacons timeout. UMass Boston down 12-1 in the opening 6:28. We'll take a commercial break and be back right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
UMass Boston will go back to the starting lineup, down 11 here with 13:32 to go. Steve, last year UMass Boston was facing a double-digit deficit of 11 points late in the first half. Cut it to 3 at halftime, but that was a different Beacons team. Sam Freeman was available. Dan Powers still on the roster this year, but out first semester was available. Alex Sanchez, another guy who's injured right now, is a very different-looking Beacons roster as Boyd tries the deep 3. A little bit short there. Now a chance in transition for Kuyujin. Kuyujin leaves it off for Bowser, who's blocked, but they'll give the foul. Mason Sinelli picks up his first third on the team.
And we kind of talked a little bit off air. I think if they had a full squad, their full usual squad, I think they'd fare well right now, and they'd really be.
It would certainly be more competitive.
I think they might even be up. I think Hawk's playing a great game. Hawkins Jr. is playing a great game, and looking at Boyd really not getting that open shot that he had against Pine Manor College.
Certainly when you don't have the ball handlers to open up space, it makes it more difficult on the shooters. Bowser knocks down the first. Heading to the bench right now is Everett Dayton, replaced out on the floor by Kenny Adigwe, the senior guard out of Lowell, Mass. Started his career out in California at Claremont Mudd Scripps, another Division III school known for their academics, and then transferred back. So Tufts going a bit deeper into their bench as well with a 13-point lead here, less than 8 minutes in. Charles Mitchell, the Beacons' top scorer, looking to open something up. He lost the dribble, but also lost his footing there. They're going to call a foul on Tufts. Their third here in the early going.
Yeah, and UMass Boston, I mean, they've had a couple open layups and such, but they couldn't convert. But right now, they have to establish some offense. Obviously, 1 point through 8 minutes isn't going to cut it. And right now, they have to establish someone that can really get a crucial shot off and make them.
Savage replaces Pace for the Jumbos. Barnes finds Hawkins up top. He's yet to score today, takes the long two, and the Beacons short again. Had some jumpers that have just not been able to convert. The Beacons have yet to get a field goal. Their only point from Dennis Houghton on a free throw from the freshman. Great up and under move there from Savage, the team's second leading scorer. That's his first points in a while. He's got, I think, 8 on the day.
And it'd be interesting if they start pushing the pace. UMass Boston, that's their name. That's what they really stay true to. That's their motto. They haven't done it today.
Sinelli off for Hawkins will try it again. The Beacons bigs are trying to step out and test these Tufts University players who they're happy and content to do it, as the Beacons have yet to convert a shot. There's another effort high off the glass and getting the roll is Savage. And the Beacons are going to take their second timeout in about 2 minutes, just underneath the media mark. So we'll take a media timeout. 18-1 Tufts, just 8:02 in, as the Beacons, without 4 of their regulars, folks, and 6 of their presumed rotation players, but this is still a difficult thing to watch if you're head coach Jason Harris.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
UMass Boston's going to send another player out there for the first time. It's Jake Smith, the freshman forward out of Norwell. One of the bigger players on the Beacons at 6'5", 210. He's been seeing a little bit more time, and he's a guy who's got some offensive skill. Sinelli, handoff to Boyd. Boyd being badgered there. There's the hand check from Eugene, who's asking for the foul, but can't get 2 hands on a body. That's been the big rule this year in Division III. They focused on, actually across all levels. 2 hands on the offensive player is going to be a foul every time.
Yeah, and the Beacons can use that to their advantage and really drive to the hoop and try to get these fouls up. Obviously at 4 already. That could be a way of getting some offense tonight. But to piggyback on the point of Jake Smith, played against MIT, some significant minutes.
And he's got a chance here, but stripped of the ball. First the foul. That one, I think Kuyujin, had a better argument about. Didn't see much there, but he's going to be called for his second in 5 seconds. And we're going to see more subs for Tufts, as they're going to play a bit more of their bench. The big man Luke Rogers, 6'8", 230, out of Boxborough, Mass, checks on for the first time as does Will Brady, one of the starters who's back in there. So Will Brady, who's making his first collegiate start, is the only starter out there right now for Tufts outside of Eric Savage.
Yeah, and talking about Jake Smith, I mean, I never really finished my point. You cut me off there, but that's all right. I think he's definitely can develop into a really good player, and they're really working with him in practice to become that elite big because he does have a great shot.
Barnes trying to do a bit too much there. A Digway into the front court. Wide open three in front of the Beacons bench, and Bowser makes the Beacons pay. Miles Bowser came in 4 from 8 from distance in limited minutes this year, and he knocks it down as the Beacons now trail by 20. Boyd trying to find some space. This Tufts defense has been good thus far. And Smith from the elbow has to kick it out for Boyd. Nearly traveled there. Boyd through traffic. He'll take a contested jumper. Beacons are having no success. Mitchell from the corner. Can that be the Beacons' first field goal? Nothing doing for UMass Boston. Steve, we might have to ask the voodoo doctor what's going on with that rim. Here's a good drive from a Digway, and he'll draw the foul on Iser Barnes.
And I talked about it before, but I didn't really elaborate on it. I really feel like we're at Dick's right now, and they have the plastic cover over the hoop. And, you know, when you were just a kid and you were trying to throw it up, but it wouldn't go in the hoop. I feel like that's where we're at right now during the game.
Well, if we had a sideline reporter, we could go down and check that out. But unfortunately, our sideline reporter is standing next to me. Steve Wachowski doing a great job on color commentary. There's a good look off the inbounds and one opportunity as the very tall and large Luke Rogers just towering over John Tessin. And it's now a 22-point game.
And we talked about the intensity. It just doesn't seem.
It's been a quiet gym tonight.
It has been a quiet gym, but that doesn't mean you can play it quiet on the floor. And I think that that's one thing that's going on with UMass Boston right now. It just doesn't look like they want to. It doesn't look like they want to be on the court right now.
Rogers misses the mark. Tessin slips to the ground, leaving Will Brady for the offensive rebound and a new 30. Handoff from Adigwe, able to find Brennan Morris into the game, the freshman guard out of East Hempstead, New Hampshire. Kicks it over to Adigwe. Adigwe underneath into the corner. We saw Bowser hit a 3 moments ago. It's Morris stripped to the ball. The Beacons looking to drive. Tessin ahead for Sidelli. Hits him off the back of the head. And the Beacons will have to play in their half-court offense where they've had absolutely zero success today.
Yeah, we talked about it. Trying to push the pace. And Tessin obviously not having really that good of chemistry. Hasn't been on the floor much.
Down low for Houghton. Can he do it? Well off the mark with the lay-in attempt there. Morris back out top for Adigwe, drives on 3 players. For Morris up top, Brady passed up on the 3. Tufts will set up. Jason Harris imploring his players to keep on working hard here. Adigwe from just inside the free throw line over Michael Boyd, and that's the kind of shot the Beacons haven't been able to convert on today. A jumper with the hand in your face.
Yeah, and they have to set something up where Boyd can get open. Right now, it doesn't look like any of their shooters are really getting open, and down low, they just can't convert layups right now.
Smith trying to work on the block, kicks it out to Tessin, who's right now playing the 3. It's a difficult spot for him because he's not as used to handling the ball. Smith working on the bigger Rogers, double teamed, and he stepped out of bounds. He was looking for the foul. It'll bring Hawkins back out on the floor. UMass Boston trails 25-1 with 9:10 to go in the first half. Remember, folks, the Beacons without Charlie Mitchell. Kevin Lewis-Jean is dressed, but we don't believe he's available. Bernard Taylor's not available. Ty Lee's not available. And that just goes along with the fact that Dan Powers, one of the team's stars from a year ago, is not available till second semester. And then Alex Sanchez, a guy who was going to be the starting point guard on this year's team, out with an MCL injury potentially for the season. So this Beacons team is very, very understaffed. There's a block from Smith, a chance to get out in transition. Boyd ahead for Charles Mitchell. Passes up on the 3, back up top for Boyd, who had the hot hand the other night with 22. Boyd drives over 2 players, and this is just getting comical at this point as the Beacons have hit every part of the rim. We've seen it almost go down on a couple of occasions. Hawkins with the good bat out of bounds. It really does seem as if UMass Boston just cannot get any luck when it comes to some of these shots falling.
And it's just attributing to their offense. When they usually have transitional offense, there's always someone running ahead of the pack, waiting for the ball to have an easy lay-in. It just doesn't look like anyone has any intensity right now to kind of follow the pack and want the ball.
Great feed from Morris to find Rogers for another easy 2. Luke Rogers off the bench has had a lot of success for a guy who averaged just 4.8 points per game. That is a long three from Charles Mitchell off the mark. Digway drives by Mitchell. He'll go over the top of Hawkins there, who was in between taking a charge and potentially being called for the block. And the Beacons will use their third timeout already in the first 12 minutes. 29-1 in favor of the Jumbos. We'll take a timeout, and we'll see what Jason Harris draws up for UMass Boston offensively.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Hey, send that to...
UMass Boston comes out of the timeout with Dason Sinelli, Jake Smith, Charles Mitchell, Isaac Barnes, and James Hawkins. For Tufts, they're going with just one starter, and that's the guy making his first collegiate start, Will Brady, out there alongside Brennan Morris, Luke Rogers, Kene Adigwe, and Miles Bowser. Tufts deep into their bench here with such a big lead. There's miscommunication between Mitchell and Boyd, a pair of freshmen, and the Beacons throw it out of bounds out of the timeout. We're going to get another media timeout in about, 8 seconds after the next stoppage. That's the second foul on Dason Sinelli, sixth on the Beacons.
A lot of frustration. You can see it on the Beacons' faces. This is not how exactly they wanted to start off this game, but you have to be resilient, especially being such a young team. I mean, down 28, yes, but they have such a good shooting team that they can really start up.
Barnes able to find Sinelli the right hand, and the Beacons have a field goal. 12 minutes in, UMass Boston hits the first one, Steve. Now the big thing is, can you make it 2 possessions in a row, 3 out of 4, and start to get a little offensive momentum? Because 28 points sounds like a lot, but if you can cut it to 20, even 18 by halftime, you have a chance, as the Digway's off the mark and Hawkins the rebound.
And what they have to do is push the pace, push the pace. It doesn't look, here we go, Mitchell pushing the pace, and it looks like that's what they have to do to get the basket.
Hawkins finds Mitchell, can't convert on the baseline three-pointer. One of the biggest difficulties tonight has been the crowd was taken out of it from the beginning for UMass Boston. It's made life even more difficult after one of their best games and one of the best crowds of the season on Tuesday night against Pine Manor. 3 is too strong out of the hands of Brady, and there's a nice putback from Rogers, who's just feasting down low. Beacons have no one who can contend with the 6'8", 230 big man. Hawkins the fadeaway, and he'll draw the foul. Beacons will head to the line for just the 3rd time this half.
And that's what you want to see if you're Coach Harris. Hawkins Jr. taking to the basket, making a move, and trying to get offense and get it sparked for your team. Obviously a great take right there. He'll go to the line for 2. Something's got to start this offense for the Beaks.
Beacons right now 1 of 4 from the free throw line. Dennis Houghton's free throw is about 3-4 minutes in, as Hawkins is too strong on the first. He came into today 0 for 1 from the free throw line, and Sinelli will be replaced by Smith. Houghton's free throw was the Beacons' lone points until Sinelli was able to knock down a layup with 8:02 to go in the half. Hawkins goes 1 of 2, and the Beacons have cut it to 31-4. Substitute back into the game for Tufts. It's Max Oppenheim at 6'8", 250, replacing the 6'8", 230 Luke Rogers. So, if anything, Tufts is getting bigger here. Beacons in some full court pressure. Great catch there from Brady. Leaves it for Oppenheim. Too strong on the lane. The second one off the mark, and it goes off the head of Hawkins there as the Beacons couldn't corral the rebound.
Yeah, just things not really going UMass Boston's way today, but a good press by Iser and Boyd to kind of, obviously you talked about it, they're going a little bit bigger. That's when you have to press and get some easy points that way.
Thomas Latham, senior starter out of Manhattan Beach, California, back in. He loves to surf, all kinds of surfing out there on the West Coast, and he's a guy who, while he is a senior starter, he hasn't seen as much time over his 4 years. Great pass from Brady looking to find Morris. Maybe one too many off the very strong inbound look from Latham. Up top, controlled by Will Brady, the Vermont Academy product. Won a NEPSAC title as a junior. Oppenheim looking to drive on Hawkins. Couple of moves, and he'll throw it up off the mark. Smith with the rebound for the Beacons.
And Hawkins, great defense tonight down low, obviously early in this part right now. A couple blocks and a couple shots that he had deflected the other way.
Hawkins, an isolation play, just too strong on the lane, and Charles Mitchell tried to tip it in, but he was off the mark. John Tesson heads back to the scorer's table for the Beacons. Contested jumper from Morris into the hands of Charles Mitchell, who averages over 4 rebounds a game for the Beacons. Mitchell, the pull-up three in transition, off the mark. UMass Boston has been ice cold all game. The lone field goal coming from Jason Sinelli. A Digway, the Euro step, and he'll draw the contact from Michael Boyd. 17 foul on the Beacons. We'll see Tufts shoot free throws the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the first half you wanted to talk about for me and you, but some of the notes that you wrote down, I'm going to bring them up for our fans. Eric Savage wants to be an astronaut.
Dream job.
Dream job. Dream job.
That's a pretty unique field.
Yeah, I'd say not a lot of people go to the moon.
Well, the one interesting thing is there's a height requirement and a height max and a minimum on a lot of those unique positions. Might be too tall to be an astronaut at 6'3".
But he could definitely ride a roller coaster.
That is true. A Digway, 1 of 2, pushing the lead back to 28. We've got a couple more fun facts to go through, thanks to Tufts University Sports Information Department. Up top, it's Smith back for Charles Mitchell, who's scoreless here in the first half, despite playing for the majority of these first 15 minutes. Boyd from the corner. He'll look to drive. The floater from 4 is off the mark, and when it rains, it pours right now for UMass Boston. Their top 2 scorers have been ice cold. A Digway out top for Latham, able to find Oppenheim. Backdoor pass for Latham, a little bit too far underneath the basket. 17 on the shot clock. They'll go back to Oppenheim, working on Smith. 3-inch difference there. Smith got a hand on the ball. Oppenheim able to get it up, but off the mark. Tufts hasn't even played that well offensively, Steve. That's the funny part. They've been missing a lot of shots as well. So it's kicked out for Smith. He'll attempt a 3, and that's the Beacons' first three-pointer from who else? It's Jake Smith, a man who had attempted 1 3-pointer all year and had not made it. And the Beacons cut it to 25.
And a beautiful shot, and he was open. Why not shoot? Obviously, the offense is struggling right now. A little bit energy, obviously taking a charge right here. See if they can't get something offensively going.
Good work from Iser Barnes to take the charge there. That one coming from Will Brady. Now 17 fouls. Actually, excuse me, that was Justin Kuyajin just back into the game. That's who they're going to charge it with. So 17 fouls apiece. Both teams will be shooting free throws the rest of the way. For Tufts, they're going to bring Patrick Racy, the starting center, back in there, who's the shortest of the big men we'll see at 6'7". Beacons don't have a big man they have one big man at 6'7" or taller. Charles Mitchell from the corner, back-to-back buckets for the Beacons from distance, and it's a 32-10 game.
2 threes in a row. Now how about a defensive stop?
Instead, it's Brady, a triple of his own from the near wing. And the teams have gotten hot all of a sudden. Pass ahead for Smith, couldn't handle it. Ends up in the hands of Barnes. Barnes contact, the block, and he'll head to the line for 2. So all of a sudden, a game that wasn't getting much excitement from the sparse crowd in front of us. Got the fans into it a little bit, both teams' benches into it, and Iser Barnes, who went 0 for 2 earlier from the free throw line, a chance to potentially give the Beacons a few more points here in the first half.
Yeah, with such a younger team for UMass Boston, you know, these point swings can really either kill their momentum or, you know, really breed their confidence. And obviously, in the last couple minutes, they've really been shooting the ball well. But in the first half, you know, it doesn't look like they have any confidence shooting at the basket, and that's not a good sign, especially going into a big weekend for conference.
Well, that's the other thing. UMass Boston has a conference game on Saturday, and that's got to be in the back of Jason Harris's head, because Charles Mitchell and Michael Boyd barely came off the floor on Tuesday night against Pine Manor. Saturday's game matters more than tonight's game or Tuesday's game or the Beacons game on Tuesday. They take on Suffolk, and then they have a game on Thursday against Eastern Nazarene. We talked about Tufts playing their second game in 2 nights, fourth and 6 nights. The Beacons in the midst of a span where this is their third game of 6 in 13 days. So the Beacons also have to think about it with 4 regulars unavailable.
Yeah, and it's just the confidence, especially with younger players, when you're playing well, everything's going well. But when you're playing not so well, can you come back in a game like this and start making some shots, or are you just going to hang your head low?
Got a hand check fouled. Oh, a travel there, on Tufts before the hand check. That was Everett Dayton with too many steps. We reached our last media timeout of the first half. It's Tufts 35, UMass Boston 12. The Beacons were off to a very slow start. Only had 1 field goal through the first 8 minutes. They picked it up offensively over the last couple minutes. See what UMass Boston can do after the break.
What separates UMass Boston from other schools is the fact that a large percentage of students commute. For me, it takes 2 hours each day to go to and from school, but every second has been worth it because the students that come here are serious about learning, they value their education, and understand where it'll take them in the future. This is what UMass Boston means to me.
$35-12 in favor of the Jumbos. We're going to head down to court level, Steve. I don't know if Jason Harris is going to have an interview with me at halftime, but we're going to try it one way or another. Make sure to stick around with us at halftime. We'll also have highlights from the Beacons' much better game on Tuesday when they went off for, I think, 81 points in a win over Pine Manor. And then we'll also take a look at the women's basketball highlights from Tuesday as well.
Well, you can't look at the games over already.
No, absolutely not.
And having a young team, they could spark like that. They made 12 threes in the last game. They're a good shooting team. Once one falls, they all fall, right?
Charles Mitchell down low for Smith, and that's the third or fourth time the Beacons have had a chance for an N1, and the rim just absolutely has shown no kind of kindness to UMass Boston today. A good chance to see Jake Smith head to the line. We've already seen him knock down a three-pointer. It's 3 of 7 on the year from the free throw line for the Norwell High School product, who knocks down the first. He was a team MVP at Norwell High School, won the league title, and reached the South Sectional Finals a year ago. Just his 5th career appearance. If he hits this free throw, he'll tie his season total for points with 5. So easily the best game of Jake's young career.
And I talked about it before, he was one of those players that really excited me watching him against MIT. Just a beautiful shot.
Stands at 6'5", 230, one of the bigger Beacons, especially off the bench, as Racy's off the mark from 4 feet. And the Beacons have a chance to cut into this deficit a little bit further. Remember, at one point, I think it was 29-1 here in the first half. So UMass Boston has already done a little bit of digging to get back into this game. Smith from the baseline looking to work on Racy. Kicks it over to the near side. Boyd passes up the 3, takes the shorter 2. Well off the mark. Sinelli's tip is off the mark. Grabs the rebound and 1. Jason Sinelli on his second effort. And the Beacons are within 20 for the first time in a while.
And it's a 15-6 run, a little bit of momentum right now. Obviously, their offense didn't even show up in the first 15 minutes, but getting a little excitement. And the Beacons, if one shot falls, they keep falling.
Jason Sinelli, one of the few upperclassmen on this team. I say upperclassmen, just a sophomore out of Boston, Mass. Boston Collegiate Charter.
That's an underclassman, Seth.
Well, when you have so few players who aren't freshmen and you're an upperclassman, especially to coach.
It doesn't change the rules.
It's the Beacons with another 3-point play. They're within 18 here with 3 minutes to go. That was the 10th team foul on Tufts. UMass Boston will shoot the double bonus the rest of the way. The Beacons have been whistled just 7 times. Into the hands of Kenny Adigwe. Adigwe over for Everett Dayton and right back for Adigwe. Racy with the available pick. Instead, they'll swing it back for Dayton from the far side into the paint over the smaller Boyd. And Everett Dayton getting a little love from the front rim as that one fell. Back to a 16-point lead for the Jumbos. Up top for Smith, across for Barnes. He's been quiet offensively. Smith's had the hot hand. He'll look to drive against the slightly bigger Racy. Keeps the pivot foot, throws it well off the mark. Rebound falls into the hands of the Jumbos.
And Smith not very deceptive on offense. If he's going to shoot, you know. If he's not going to shoot, you can see he's looking for the pass.
It's one of those things where he probably will work on those moves as he gets older. Just a freshman. 3 is long out of the hands of Vincent Pace back in there. Charles Mitchell, the hard drive, and he'll head to the line for 2.
And that's the UMass Boston team we know and love. When they take it to the basket, very aggressive. Obviously, Charles Mitchell, not really used to with the point. But taking it to the basket, getting to the line, creating some offense. It's not like they have to shoot like they did on Tuesday and knock down 12 3-pointers. They just have to be a little bit more aggressive on offense.
Mitchell too strong on the first, the New Mission High School product. Surprising, Charles the Beacon's leading scorer at 13.6 points per game as Hawkins will replace Smith. He's really struggled from the free throw line, 9 of 23. He's actually shooting a slightly better mark from the free throw line than the three-point line, but not by as much as you would hope, as he goes 1 of 2 to cut the deficit to 19 at 37-18. Beacons in that full court pressure. Racy comes back, rather, that's Vincent Pace, who stands just an inch shorter than Racy, at least on the roster that we were given. Down to 12 on the shot clock. Up top, it's Pace into the lane, kicks it out wide open. 3 from the corner, and Thomas Leifa makes the Beacons pay. 40-18 in favor of the visitors. Hawkins keeps looking for that jumper. This time it looked good, but again, that unkind rim in and out. Ahead, Leifa even more wide open from the wing. Can't finish back-to-back. Pace, it's Vincent Pace too strong there, and the Beacons fortunate there with no one underneath the basket to rebound that wide open look from Latham. Sinelli, a hard drive to the basket. He's blocked. Give the credit to Patrick Racy, and it's Tufts with a chance to widen out this lead.
Yeah, Tufts doing a great job, obviously, under the boards. Just playing great defense, obviously. Another stop right there.
Racy on the smaller Sinelli, giving up 6 inches, and that's a good way to bully him. It was actually Vincent Pace. Those two guys pretty close in height, slightly similar haircuts, and both pretty talented big men, despite the fact that Vincent Pace is listed as a guard. 40 seconds to go in the half. The Beacons trail by 24. UMass Boston trail by as many as 29 as the offense took a while to warm up on this cold night. Boyd from in front of the Tufts bench, off the mark. Rebound tapped out of the Beacons' hands, and it'll stay with Tufts here for the final 25.2 as Hawkins will take a rest with Smith back out there.
And, you know, I'm surprised if Coach Harris does really take the interview with you, what he's going to say about what they're going to do here in the second half.
The Beacons have played all but 3 of their available players, at least the ones that Coach said were available. Sam Nova, Rob Nascimento, and Mohamed Gabor, 3 of the last guys in the rotation. Down to 16 seconds remaining in the half. Good defensive pressure on the ball there from Barnes, but Everett Dayton was able to hang on. Down to 8 seconds left in this first half. From the corner, it's Pace, wide open, Eugene, and they're going to say he did not beat the horn. So that will do it for the first half. It'll only be 24 points. Steve, I'm going to head down. We'll take a commercial break, and we'll see what Jason Harris decides to do.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, and I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
Coach, we'll make this brief. What's the message to this team at halftime? Obviously, you got 20 minutes left to prove something to themselves and to you as well.
Just compete. I mean, any excuse you want to give us now for why we're down, that's fine, but I'm not having it, we're just not really competing. After, we struggled to shoot the ball, and then we just kind of quit for like 12 minutes. And then, that's why they have 42 points. That's why we're down 22. The positive is we talked about getting it back down to 18, so we're close at that, but man, it's going to be tough.
And one other quick question, does Saturday factor in your mind at all, knowing you have a conference game?
No, I'm trying to win today. We'll worry about Saturday after the game, but I'm trying to win today.
Thanks so much for your time, Coach. We'll head up top right now and look at a better offensive game for UMass Boston, the highlights from Tuesday's win over Pine Manor College.
Mitchell gets it by the defense, has a run at the basket, the backdoor pass. Takes it out. Long two, no good offensive rebound. To retain it. Now they have Mitchell over the post. Almost takes it away by Collins to create an open look for the Beacons. Finishes the Beacons. They're going to quickly turn it to the Mitchell puts it off.
And welcome back. 42-18 in favor of the Jumbos at halftime. Tufts University led by as many as 28 at 29-1 in this one. The Beacons have not led. It's funny, Steve. This game was 0-0 at the first media timeout. It was both teams got off to a very slow start. The only problem is UMass Boston couldn't overcome that slow start as Tufts University was able to get out to that huge lead. I think it was interesting what Jason Harris said. Hey, we got it back to 18. That was the positive. But the effort hasn't necessarily been there for UMass Boston. And he didn't have to mention it, but you only have what you have today. You're not able to say, well, if we had Bernard Taylor, if we had Charlie Mitchell, if we had Ty Lee, if we had Kevin Lewis-Jean, those guys aren't available. And in sports that happens. And as much as that's an excuse, Tufts University doesn't care because they're without two of their better players. You look at two of their seniors who haven't played a game yet this year. Ben Engvall started every game last year. KJ Garrett, the walk-on transfer from the University of Washington, a D1 player for 2 years. He hasn't played in a game yet this year, so it's not like we're seeing the full jumbo side either.
Yeah, and I think that was my favorite quote from the interview, the short interview with you and Jason Harris.
He wanted it to be short.
To the fact that when you're talking about it, he asked if you have any excuses. And he doesn't have any excuses because that's not the type of coach that he is. He doesn't look for excuses, and especially in these first couple of years. Obviously, there has been hardships, and this is just one on the list of many. And obviously a tough game, but, you know, they lacked intensity tonight, and that has really shown.
Right now we're going to take a look at the team statistics for both of these teams. And not a surprise, Steve, when UMass Boston has 18 points, the majority coming in the last 4 to 5 minutes. They didn't shoot all that well. 4 of 31 from the field. UMass Boston 12.9%, 2 of 9 from distance, and a disappointing 8 of 13 from the free throw line. For Tufts, 42.1%, 16 of 38, 5 of 11 from distance, 45%. They went 5 of 8. The rebounds, plus 12 in favor of Tufts. That's a thing that we said could be an issue. UMass Boston with just 3 assists. Neither team has turned the ball over that many times with 5.
Yeah, and I mean when we talk about the rebounds, they were doing a good job, UMass Boston, at rebounding at the beginning of the game, and then they just absolutely got dominated in the last 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. They've just been getting outworked, outplayed, and it shows when they're down 24 at half.
8 offensive rebounds for Tufts, just 3 for UMass Boston. Points in the pace, 16-4 in favor of the Jumbos. The Jumbos benches outscored UMass Boston as a team 22-6. Right now we're going to take a look at the women's basketball highlights. UMass Boston women's basketball has won 7 in a row, or rather 6 in a row. They'll look to make it 7 on Saturday when they take on Rhode Island College. Right now we'll take a look at those highlights, then we'll have the team leaders, the highlights from that first half, and a look around the rest of the conference and the rest of UMass Boston athletics.
One day I was tripping, and that's when I could see that the things that attempting to could be reality. That's right, that's when I climbed that optimistic vine. Once I hit that mountain peak, I began to lose my mind. I don't need no sympathy, I want mine. That's my ability. You're done showing strong, he's straight into the
And welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center Gymnasium. Right now we'll take a look at the team leaders from that first half. For UMass Boston, 5 points from Jason Sinelli, 5 more from Jake Smith. That's a new career high. On the other side, in limited minutes, Vincent Pace with 8 points and 7 rebounds in just 10 minutes of action. Hawkins Jr. leads the Beacons with his 5 rebounds. No one stood out, but a big part of that, Steve, is UMass Boston had some of their stars play a lot of minutes but struggle, and Tufts has gone deep into their bench. The Jumbos have already played well over 10 players.
I would say standing out for UMass Boston is definitely Jake Smith. Obviously, the first time he's really getting some serious minutes for UMass Boston, and I think he's proven himself tonight with the three-pointer and getting in the line a couple times. Obviously, he hasn't made all his free throws, but I think he's definitely showing himself off tonight.
Right now, we'll take a look around the rest of the Little East Conference. 4 other games going on tonight. Take a look at those games. One final for you. That was WPI defeating Eastern Connecticut State 75-70. Those two teams already played this year in a tournament down at Eastern. WPI hands the Warriors their first loss of the year. UMass Dartmouth up by 12 over Roger Williams. Plymouth State up by 11 on Elms at the half. And MIT, a team the Beacons already saw, leads Rhode Island College by 8. Right now, we'll move along and take a look at the rest of UMass Boston athletics. No other games today or tomorrow. A busy Saturday. The women's basketball team will take on Rhode Island College. Women's hockey on the road at Colby College. Men's hockey travels to UMass Dartmouth. And the Beacons track and field teams, who just opened their season this past Saturday, will be at Rhode Island College. Steve, we've got a minute 54 to go. Let's take a look at the highlights from half number 1.
Yeah, I mean, not much on UMass Boston then. Obviously, Tufts, three-pointer. They've been so lethal behind the three tonight. Really been getting a lot of open threes. And you see, taking it to the rack, Hawkins Jr., obviously a very creative and acrobatic lay-in right there for Tufts. And the little offense that UMass Boston had.
There's the Beacons' first field goal with 8 minutes to go in the half.
And Jason Sinelli, he's really got to step it up here. Obviously, been a tough night for the Beacons, but Jake Smith, the one bright point, finds the bottom of the net for the Beacons.
That's 3 of his 5 points, and the Beacons added another 3 on the next possession. They were able to cut it to 18 from 28, but it's a 24-point game at the break, as there was a couple of nice rebounds from Sinelli. And really, Jason Sinelli is one of those guys who has a chance to become a phenomenal player as his career goes along. This is one of those games you got to fight through as an underclassman sophomore, even though
Thank you.
Coach views all of his non-freshmen as upperclassmen because of the fact the Beacons have 9 freshmen on the roster. Steve, 38 seconds to go before half number 2. What do you want to see out of UMass Boston here over the final 20 minutes?
I think the last highlight is what they have to play like, hard-nosed basketball. Even though he had 3 guys on him that were all taller than him. Obviously, UMass Boston a little outmatched tonight in size and talent, but you know they just have to grind it out and maybe a couple threes here or there, and keep it going.
UMass Boston has lost 18 of the past 19 against Tufts University. Won last year, a 76-74 win over the Jumbos. Have not won at home since 2004. For Tufts University, they're going to go with a lot of their starters, it looks like. Everett Dayton out on the floor alongside Eric Savage, Thomas Latham, Patrick Racy, and Vincent Pace. So it will be the same starting 5 for UMass Boston. They're going to go with the same starting 5, but a slightly different looking starting 5, as Charles Mitchell is going to wear the Rip Hamilton mask after suffering a face injury a couple weeks ago in practice. This is one of the first times I've seen him actually wear the mask, and he'll be even more recognizable. Without his twin, Charlie Mitchell, it's very easy to recognize him on the floor, out there with Boyd, Barnes, Sinelli, and Hawkins.
And I think this is a point where you have to test out if he can wear that mask. Obviously, conference coming up, and you want his safety, obviously, to come first. And he has to, it's kind of a weird thing to wear when you're not wearing it all the time.
Boyd is blocked, was looking for the foul there. And a big part about the mask that a lot of players don't like is it affects your vision just a little bit, and that's enough to maybe send some shooters from a really good three-point shooter to a difficult spot, as Racy is blocked from behind by Hawkins, who now has 3 blocks. Mitchell looks to drive, leaves it off for Barnes, who was in a difficult spot. Hawkins dishes it back out for Barnes, goes down low for Sinelli, triple teamed. Good help defense from Latham there.
And Iser doesn't look like he's the same player since last year when he would come up and pull up and shoot that three-pointer. It looks like he's more of a facilitator now.
Savage is intercepted there by Sinelli running out of bounds. The Beacons running 3v1. Barnes for Mitchell, and Mitchell can't quite finish. Barnes the rebound. He'll get the bucket, and the Beacons only take a minute 12 here in the second half to get that first field goal.
Yeah, and that's a great play. Obviously, coming out of the half, you want intensity. You want to cause turnovers if you're UMass Boston and kind of press the Tufts offense. And that's a great job right there, a little hustle play that results in 2.
Got a stoppage on the court as it looks like Patrick Racy may be bleeding, so he'll be attended to by the Tufts University trainer who made the short trip. Checking in is Max Oppenheim. Oppenheim, a freshman center out of Potomac, Maryland, saw time in the first half. Walt Whitman High School product, 2-time regional champ there, and his dad was a volleyballer at the University of Wisconsin, so he comes from a good bloodline. Probably another guy who stands well over 6 feet, as Oppenheim at 6'8", 250, and he's blocked from behind by Hawkins. Already 2 early blocks here in the second half. Barnes in transition finds Sinelli. The Beacons have the first 4 of the second half. It's back to a 20-point deficit.
And some good defensive plays that have resulted in some buckets, and that's UMass Boston's motto.
Into the corner for Pace, back across the near side. Good drive from Everett, and Everett Dayton is off the mark. The Beacons have a chance to start this half on a little run. It was 15-6 late in the half to cut it down as Barnes is blocked there. He'll grab his own rebound, and that one will end up off the hands of Vincent Pace.
And you didn't credit the block on that last possession to Hawkins Jr. I think he got a little bit of the ball.
He's been very active in this, his first start as a UMass Boston Beacon. Senior out of West Medford. Spent his first 2 years at Bridgewater State. Can't make the catch there, and it's out of bounds off Hawkins. Great look from the freshman Michael Boyd.
Great look, and you could see his frustration. Obviously, you want to come out hot, and they have, and that was just an easy lay-in if Hawkins catches that pass.
Looks like it's a bloody nose or lip for Patrick Racy, who's at the end of the bench right now for Tufts, being attended to. The good news for Tufts is they're leading by 20 and have tons of quality big men behind him. But certainly we hope that he'll be okay as he holds some tissues to his nose right now. Stepping back there in the lane. Beautiful shot from Everett Dayton, who had a tough night last night. Just 1 point, 0 for 6 from the field. But he's hit a couple of shots tonight in limited minutes. Sinelli the pull-up. Hawkins the follow, but he can't finish. It doesn't matter which end the Beacons are on. They just have not had a lot of love from the rims here at home.
Yeah, that's happened a couple times, especially to Hawkins. Obviously, just have to finish there.
Everett Dayton way too strong, and the Beacons are called for the foul. Charles Mitchell so upset with the call that he takes off the mask to have some words with the referees. Didn't feel like he could get his point across there.
And it looks like he's going to hand off the mask here.
He was getting tangled up, and the Beacons coaching staff is screaming out as that was a mismatch of epic proportions. Mitchell listed at 5'10", Oppenheim at 6'8", and the big man who had 10 inches on Mitchell is credited with a pair of free throw attempts here. Max came into today 1 for 1 from the free throw line. Did not have a free throw attempt in the first half. No points on 0 for 4 shooting. Give him 2 points here in the early going.
And a nice arcing shot. Gets the roll in there.
46-22 in favor of Tufts. They've led the entire way, or at least from about the 15-minute mark when they scored their first points. It was 0-0 at the first media timeout. Boyd the step back off the crossover. A bit too strong. He has not found his shot today. Mike Boyd in that first half was 0 for 8 from the field after a 22-point performance the other night.
Yeah, and I was just about to point that out. Really hasn't played his game tonight, and he really hasn't had an open look, and I think that attributes to really not having a point guard that can kind of get him open.
No Charlie Mitchell, no Ty Lee. Nice job by Latham on the recovery. Near side, the Beacons double team Pace. He's able to find Dayton. 5 on the shot clock, kicks it over for Savage. Extra pass, the rainbow attempt from Latham, and it's too strong. Did not throw up the normal shot there. Sinelli, another acrobatic catch. He could have been a football player in another life, and he'll draw the foul there over Oppenheim.
Yeah, and I think right now, Beacons are starting to move a little bit quicker and get a little more offensive opportunities. Obviously, the baskets aren't really falling, but this is good to see, especially going into a game this Saturday, which you don't want to go 0-2 in the conference starting off.
Absolutely not. The Beacons, a tough loss at Keene State, a team that made it to the Sweet 16 last year on the road this past Saturday. You'd love to go into the break at 1-1 if you start off 0-1. And Steve, you're a student athlete. You play on the UMass Boston baseball team. In a game like this, in baseball, this can happen where you go down big early on, and it's probably going to be difficult to come back. What do you say as an upperclassman? What are coaches saying at this point in terms of getting something from this game, even if it might not be a W?
Yeah, well, I've been there, in a couple of situations. Obviously, I think we lost to Roger Williams by 15 my sophomore year. Alex Carasoto, he's sitting up here. I think he gave up 8 runs.
Well, let's keep the focus on the point rather than the making fun of.
Yes, you're right. But, yeah, sometimes you just have to stay positive, especially with the younger guys. And this is a young team, so the veterans, Sinelli is young himself, but Iser Barnes, he has to, keep up the mojo a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be tough, especially when the younger players aren't hitting those shots. So being the Beacons, you have to stay positive and really grind. That's a good point by Coach Harris at the end of the half to get it within 15. Make goals, set standards, and don't just let it be waste of a game where they're losing by 30 and just keep going. They really have to keep grinding.
Well, and you don't want this to snowball. If you lose today, you lose today. It's not a conference game.
Exactly.
Division III especially, and in a conference like the LEC that typically gets 1, sometimes 2 teams, you're probably not going to get in that large bid as a school like UMass Boston that's already suffered some early losses. But you don't want today's loss to end up with bad focus for Saturday, and then you've got Tuesday, and then you've got Thursday. The last thing you want to do heading into break is be on a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, and you really, some of these guys are just true shooters. You have Boyd, you have Charles Mitchell, you have, Dason Sinelli, he's not much of a shooter, but he's an inside guy. You want them to kind of get their shot down today, and obviously haven't really had the chance yet, but you want them to kind of work on that and not just go into the conference having no confidence.
The Beacons without their top 3 point guards today as Boyd, a hard drive, still is ice cold, and the ball is punched out of bounds there by Sinelli, who was trying to grab the rebound. Alex Sanchez has not played in the game this year, probably sitting out this season with an MCL injury. Charlie Mitchell suffered a knee injury in the first half against Pine Manor, had to go to the hospital today, get x-rays. Hopefully he's back on Saturday. Ty Lee, not available tonight. Hopefully he's back Saturday. So it's tough as a shooter when you don't have those point guards opening you up. Down to 11 on the shot clock. Oppenheim finds the backdoor cut for Dayton. Goes over Hawkins too strong. And Sinelli another rebound. He will end up trying to run out and transition by himself. Finds Barnes. The jump stop. And he puts it up over the taller Vincent Pace.
Yeah, and you talked about it, obviously, but one of the things that was going so well for the Beacons the other night was everyone was hitting shots. It wasn't just one individual. So a lot of people were getting open because they had to guard everyone. It wasn't like they shied away from one individual.
Tonight it's been a struggle for anyone to get really going. His pace is short, and the Beacons a chance to get back within 20. Talking about attainable goals, that's probably something they were looking to do. End this game within blank amount of points, probably 15, maybe even smaller. There's Barnes with the ball fake. He'll kick it out top for Boyd. Thought about the deep 3, drives in the floater, and he's now, I think, 0 for 11 on the night. This is a guy who was red hot the other night, 6 of 9 from distance, but he's just ice cold, and we've got a travel there before the contact on Eric Savage.
Yeah, and if I'm a Beacons fan, I don't have any problem with him taking these shots because obviously they're down 20, 14 minutes left, but he needs to be their guy on Saturday for them to come out with a W.
We saw it from Devin Booker in the NBA the other day for the Phoenix Suns. I think he started 1 for 9, 1 for 8, went off for 40-plus points. If you're a shooter, the only way to get out of a funk like this is to continue shooting.
Shoot or shoot.
Dason Sinelli will find Boyd from straight away. 17 on the shot clock, and it's Charles Mitchell from deep. Hits the front of the rim. Sinelli, another putback. He's been one of the brightest spots for UMass Boston in this one. They're within 18 as Smith replaces Hawkins. Latham tries to drive, kicks it across to the near wing. Kuyajin back in. He's the deadly three-point shooter. Hands it off and got a reach in there. There was contact that time on the dribble. Charles Mitchell wasn't happy on it, but he definitely got a piece of Eric Savage. We'll see Dason Sinelli check out. Dennis Houghton back in. Sophomore checks off. Freshman back in there. Houghton saw 3 minutes in that first half. 0 for 1, but did have a point from the free throw line. More substitutions coming for Tufts. They'll bring in Miles Bowser along with Luke Rogers. Rogers down low, the left-hand lay-in. Luke Rogers is having himself a game. He's already got 8 points in 5+ minutes of action.
Yeah, I mean, he's just dominating the boards and really getting those garbage points. Obviously, a lot taller than most of the Beacons.
Charles Mitchell's second made field goal of the day. The baseline jumper cuts it back down to an 18-point deficit. It's Pace kicking it over for Kuyajin. The three-point shot off the mark, but the Beacons can't grab the rebound. And it'll be Rogers heading to the line for 2 more as Dason Sinelli will check back in. And really, Dennis Houghton's frustrated there, but in going to a couple of the Beacons practices and listening to Jason Harris, Dennis Houghton's one of those guys who his offense is behind his rebounding. If he's out there and rebounding, he's going to get a chance, but I think we're going to see him replaced right now because the Beacons can't grab that defensive rebound, and it leads to 2 free throws as Sinelli, the Beacons' top rebounder, replaces one of their freshmen.
Yeah, and I mean, he's gotten a couple minutes against MIT, and you can see Harris just absolutely a little upset and
well, it's jokingly frustrated, but he knows it. I mean, it's one of those things where if you know what you're out there for and you don't do a job, you know you're probably not going to see time.
And they're going back and forth on the bench right now. Obviously, it's tough as an athlete because sometimes you want. I mean, I've been in a situation where you just want to perform at the highest level, and sometimes you just can't. And tonight, obviously, all the Beacons aren't really performing at their highest level, so it is frustrating.
Savage for 3 off the mark. Who's there? It's Rogers, but this time it was a push-off. It's 2 of the bigger guys on the floor, Rogers and Smith going at it, and Rogers whistled for a rare foul.
It's something you don't want to do, especially in this situation. When you are struggling, a lot of these athletes don't press too hard. You know, a lot of these guys, I mean, Boyd, what is he, over 12, over 13?
Over 13 at this point, yeah.
And you don't want them to press too hard because then you really don't get the outcome that you want, and it just gets that much harder. The net, the basket looks that much smaller. So, I mean, you know, that's another thing that this Beacons team really can't do is just press.
Barnes hits a triple from the near wing. UMass Boston as close as they've been since it was 17-1. It's a 49-33 game, and now the Beacons bench trying to get loud, imploring the fans to get loud with them. Rogers looking to make a move up top, wide open, Pace. And Pace answers from straight away.
And we talked about it all night. You know, the Beacons have really crashed the paint and really helped each other out doing that and trying to get defensive stops that way. Well, it leaves open. Sorry, it's been a long night. Leaves open the 3-point for Tufts.
Miles Bowser's going to be called for the foul as Jake Smith tried to get there. And, Steve, I don't think that Bob Sheldon and Tufts University's coaching staff is going to say, we played all that well tonight, we had a great game. But the one good thing if you're Tufts is the few times that UMass Boston's looked like they might get back in this game. Hit a couple of shots, hit a big momentum shot. Tufts has answered every time with the 3 of their own or a big basket, and that's got to be confidence building for a Tufts team that's been up and down the last couple games. That big win against Salem State, bad half last night against Emerson, had to come back. This is a Tufts team that has higher expectations after being ranked 6th in the preseason poll. Charles Mitchell well short. Rogers the rebound, and Tufts looking to get out in transition, and Dason Sinelli forced to give the foul there. I think that's the 3rd on Dason.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a great point. Obviously, there's wins and losses, and there's games that you can really take something away from. And I think Tufts doing that tonight, you made a great point. You know, they did a great job of kind of when facing a little bit of adversity, not a lot, but they did kind of answer back, especially with crucial 3-pointers.
Second foul on Sinelli, 4th on the Beacons, 11:44 to play. Tufts leads by 19. We'll take immediate timeout along with the teams. Let me back right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
And I mean, we were talking about the fun facts a little bit. You know, it is a downtime right now.
Some of these dream jobs?
The dream jobs. I'm going to go back to it. Vincent Pace, obviously having a great game today. Great career at Tufts. How about this? He wants to own the Yankees someday.
Well, he is a New Jersey kid, so it wouldn't be the Red Sox that would be his team of choice.
Yeah, well, I wonder if he were to own the Yankees, what were some decisions he'd make for this upcoming year?
That could be a long conversation.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I hope it wouldn't.
It won't be right now, though. Kuyajin trying to find Bowser, who's just able to hand. I don't even know what I was trying to go with there. Hang on, maybe. Yeah. Handle it. Ahead for Charles Mitchell. The Beacons score after I absolutely butchered the last possession along with Tufts.
Maybe we can get a post-game interview with Pace, you know, see his insight as to where he wants to bring the organization to get a world championship.
You know, he's probably a few years away from owning the team. Also, at least in my opinion, the owner shouldn't be the guy making the decisions. Bowser down low finds Rogers. Contact from Smith, not enough for a foul. And it ends up with another bucket for Rogers, who is off to a tremendous start in this one. Had 10 points in the season opener. I think he's already passed that mark. As Smith from three rattles in and out, and we've got to do some tests after this game. The Beacons just have had no luck. Boyd will find Smith from much closer. A little bit of contact, and it's not going to be called as Kenny Adigwe might have made some contact on the wrist. Wide open, Kuyajin. He's too strong. Rogers is quadruple team, and the Beacons will get the foul.
And you see Boyd just absolutely hack. I mean, there's really nothing he could do in that situation. You know, it looked like Rogers just put his hands up and got the board, but he's having a great game today and goes to the line for two.
Luke's the guy they're happy to have back. He went off for 10 points and 7 rebounds in the opener, and then didn't play in the last 4 games going into last night. Played 4 minutes last night in the win against Emerson. And this is a great kind of game for the Boxborough, Massachusetts native to get some game minutes and to get back some of that endurance after missing a couple of weeks, as we'll see Hawkins replace Smith for UMass Boston.
And a tennis state champion. That's also another fun fact. In his high school career, not in college, but in high school, he was a state champion.
We're going to get a technical foul against UMass Boston's head coach, Jason Harris, just trying to fight for his team. We saw Smith probably, we're always a little biased here. The home team always is. It looked like it was a pretty clear hack on Adigwe on that Smith lay-in, and then Kuyajin will hit the free throw. We're going to see one more from Rogers after this Kuyajin free throw. But at this point, not as worried about the final result, but you do want to have your players feel like you're fighting for them. And realistically, if UMass Boston, the smaller team, is taking physical contact and not getting calls, it's going to make this uphill battle even harder.
And especially standing up for one of your freshmen. I mean, you know, that's one of the obviously he's having a good game tonight, and you don't want him feeling degraded when he sits down. You know, he wants a little pat on the back. You know, hey, good job. You know, you got fouled, didn't get called. It's more or less a mental state for next game than just taking a seat and saying, damn, didn't hit that.
Kuyajin goes 2 for 2 on the technical free throws. Rogers 1 for 2. It's a 3-point possession. The lead's back to 22. Mitchell, the very difficult floater. This time, Adigwe is going to be called for it. And Charles Mitchell, who I talked to his former high school teammate, Sam Freeman, the guy who went off last year against Tufts and hit the game-winning basket. And it's funny, Mitchell's such a good three-point shooter. I mean, literally works on it all the time, leads the conference in three-point attempts. For some reason, he can't hit the free throws, and he said a bit of it is practice and a bit of it is mental at this point with his early free throw struggles.
Yeah, and he's such a player that really gets to the line a lot for the Beacons, so that is going to be huge for his career, you know, building up. He is a great three-point shooter. To elevate his game, he's got to be a little bit better at the line.
Yeah, it's very rare that you see guys who are good scorers and good three-point shooters be bad free throw shooters. A lot of times you see good scores. We're going to get an offense. Oh, no, first a travel. It looked like Adigwe was making some contact. Instead, Kuyajin thought about it a bit too much and will be called for the travel. You see a lot of guys who are maybe good big men down low who score a lot of their points within 4 to 6 feet, or guys who are really good at getting to the hoop be bad free throw shooters. As Kuyajin swipes it away from Hawkins, and he'll get it back, but in a difficult position on that pass from Adigwe, and they'll settle into their half-court offense. Savage finds Rogers. He's got a career high, and the Beacons see the deficit reach 23.
Yeah, I mean, Rogers just having a good game tonight, really attacking the basket, and you talked about it. For a guy that hasn't really played well all year, this is a huge confidence booster.
Kuyajin out of the head of the pack. Well, it's not that he hasn't played well, but he was banged up a little bit. Hasn't seen a ton of time since that injury. So we'll see UMass Boston take a timeout after a couple of turnovers and Tufts getting out in transition. The lead, Tufts 61, UMass Boston 36. We'll be back with 9:22 to play.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
You see UMass Boston, quite a few players unavailable tonight. 4 of their top 8 rotation players. They've been forced to go deeper into their bench than they have all season long. Not with great results. They're on pace right now for a season low in points and field goal percentage after shooting a season high from behind the arc and a 41% mark from the field on Tuesday night. This is a 3-game week, so a chance to go 2-1 even with the loss tonight as Smith another strong move and Rogers is whistled for the foul. That's been a fun battle today. Jake Smith, who stands at 6'5" against some of the bigs for Tufts, and Smith draws the 4th foul on Rogers. The good news for Tufts is that they've got 2 other big guys to use and only 9-11 left. Not much of a risk here with a 25-point lead as Smith knocks down the first.
Yeah, and just going through some of these names and their backgrounds, definitely very interesting. Brennan Morris played on the U20 Great Britain national team, and his dad played cricket.
Yeah, obviously a guy with some British background out of East Hempstead, New Hampshire. Not on the floor now, but we did see him in the first half. Rogers kicks it across for Eric Savage. We've seen a lot more of Savage and pace here in the second half than we did in the first half. It's going to be a 3 from Bowser. A little bit too strong, and Smith another rebound.
Smith doing a really good job boxing out Rogers. Obviously a very big body. Doing a good job kind of getting that rebound right there.
Sinelli tries to drive, has to pick up the dribble over for John Tesson back into the game. Tesson kind of a undersized big for this Beacons team. Smith draws another foul, this time on Miles Bowser, and he'll head back to the line. Smith came into today's contest with just 7 free throw attempts for his career, 3 of 7, and 5 career points. He had 5 points in the first half, already with 7. And that's the 6-team foul on Tufts. 16 fouls apiece here with 8:32 to play. Smith makes it 3 of 3 in his last 2 trips.
Yeah, and something about Smith that I kind of saw early. Obviously, his presence down low lacks a little bit as being an inexperienced freshman, but I think he does a great job with kind of getting to the line, and obviously a very good free throw shooter. Hits 2 right there.
Kevin Lewis-Jean, the Beacon starter, unavailable tonight, and this is one of those things where Jake Smith might be earning minutes going forward. They'll still be the 3rd big behind Kevin Lewis-Jean and Hawkins, presumably. We've got an offensive foul there. Good pressure from Dason Sinelli, but it could mean we see a 3rd big in the rotation.
Yeah, and against MIT, he looked a little, obviously it was the first game that he really played against a very good MIT team. Not knocking MIT at all, but he looked a little not so physical. And tonight, you know, he's got Rogers down low, a very big body, and he's handling himself pretty well, especially on the offensive end as well.
That was the 5th foul on Rogers, so he's done for the day, replaced by the starter, Racy. Charles Mitchell still can't find the mark. Tessin, the rebound, and they're going to call a foul on his way down. Kenny Adigwe picks up the foul. That's now 8 on Tufts. And John Tessin will have a chance from the free throw line, the second there on Adigwe. John Tessin, the freshman forward out of Bridgewater, Mass., making his 6th appearance on the year, averaging 3 points per game, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. As the first is true, the Beacons have now hit 5 free throws in a row, and the deficit is back to 20.
Well, you just gave it to broadcaster Jinx. I don't want to see that.
Well, you never know. Tessin doesn't care. He can't hear me. It's a 19-point game as Tufts will go back to the bench. They'll bring in Brady, who got his first start, and there's the man we were talking about, Brendan Morris, the 6'5", 200-pound player with a little bit of British background. You look at Will Brady, you've been mentioning some of the dream jobs. I like Brady's dream job. He wants to be an NBA general manager. Yeah. That would be a fun, if not extremely high-pressure position, especially in the current age where there's so many different ways of potentially building a roster, including the process created by Sam Hinkie of just tearing it all down. Some guys like it. Some guys hate it. As a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, seeing Tufts, obviously a crosstown rival in many sports, but a very good school, a NESCAC school. Beautiful shot right there. Finds the bottom of the net.
First bucket of the day for Michael Boyd, who had started at least 0 for his first 12. Great drive from Adigwe. There's the contact from Smith. And UMass Boston will see their 17-point lead, or 17-point deficit probably stretch out a little bit. But Steve, 28 points in the first half, 29-1. I mean, it wasn't just 28 points like a 35-7 game. It was fast.
Yeah.
But this Beacons team has kept in it here in the second half. They've been the more aggressive of the teams as we've got immediate timeout. This is good to see if you're UMass Boston, the fact that they've been able to hang with the Jumbos here in the second half and bring the energy that we didn't see in the first half.
Yeah, and I think you have to accredit that to a couple guys like Jake Smith really starting the offense for the Beacons.
Jason Sinelli
doing a great job under the boards. I mean, we talked about how good of a job that he has to do with his second half, and I think he's definitely done a great job rebounding. And a person that you really haven't seen on the floor is Hawkins Jr., who has had a pretty good first half for scoring for the Beacons. Haven't seen him much in the second half.
He's a guy who only sees about 10 minutes a game. He's definitely seen more than that today. And I don't think Coach would admit it, but maybe there's a little bit of just trying to keep him a little fresher if Louis Jean isn't available. Coach would probably deny that 100%. But Rhode Island College...
Especially if you said it.
Oh, 100%. Nothing I say is right in Jason Harris's mind. But part of that also is, Steve, you look at Rhode Island College, they're typically big, they're typically long, they're typically athletic, very similar to Pine Manor. You need a little bit of size in that game. So giving Hawkins, who's a senior, and he's not a traditional senior, I think he's a little bit older than that, a little bit of extra rest probably is a good thing, whereas some of these freshmen, they could probably play back-to-back games and still feel good enough to go tomorrow.
Yeah, when talking about Louis Jean, I mean, he warmed up with the team. He looked pretty good out there. I mean, I mentioned it to you.
Did not practice yesterday, so maybe even if he's past the concussion protocol, they wanted to give him a day of practice and didn't want to risk him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and he's going to be huge in the game, obviously, against RIC. Usually a very athletic team, and usually a very tall team as well. And that's something the Beacons really need. They need another big man, especially in a conference game.
Adigwe 1 for 2. The Beacons with Mitchell, who will take it all the way there. Blocked, and the rebound will end up in the hands of Charles, along with Sinelli, Michael Boyd, James Hawkins Jr., and John Tessick. Boyd has to pick up the dribble up top with 13 on the shot clock for Mitchell. Mitchell needs help, picks up his dribble, and finds Boyd with 8. Boyd just hit his last shot. Can he make it 2 for 2? Has to pick it up, finds Hawkins at the elbow with 2. Needs to get it off, finds Mitchell straight away, well off the mark. I don't think that caught the rim, and the referee agrees.
Yeah, and that's just a terrible possession by UMass. Obviously, what I wanted to see right there is for the team to really set something up. Just coming off immediate timeout, setting something up maybe for Boyd. I mean, obviously, very good shooter for UMass, trying to build his confidence a little bit. Huge game on Saturday, but that was just a waste of possession.
Yeah, and UMass Boston, one of the things I have noticed today is the Beacons have struggled in coming out of timeouts, and that's something that we don't typically see. Jason Harris is a very good X and O's coach. That's tipped out of the hands of Adigwe off of Boyd. Very good X's and O's, does a really nice job drawing up plays out of timeouts, but the Beacons have turned it over a couple times, have looked lost a couple times, and I think a big part of that is personnel. This group of five and the group of five that they've been putting out there, not your typical UMass Boston lineups with 4 players unavailable tonight who typically see anywhere between 10 to 25 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about that as much as you want, but it comes down to executing the plays, and that's exactly what they haven't done tonight. And I think that does attribute to the personnel, but I think they just haven't had the intensity of someone really taking the ball and wanting to score the basket.
Kenny Adigwe with some beautiful dribbling, but one too many steps. He's called for the travel. It'll go back to the Beacons with 6:18 to play. UMass Boston kept Tufts scoreless through the first 4 minutes, but they really couldn't get going in that first half. Shot just 12.9%, 4 made field goals. Took them 12 minutes to hit their first, and they trailed 29-1. Boyd from straight away. This time he gets some love off the glass, off the front of the rim and in. And Michael Boyd now has 5 points here in the second half, and it's a 15-point game.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I want to see as a Beacons fan, is have him heat up here in the end of the game, gain a little confidence going into Saturday.
Beacons can sense that they have a chance here, at least for the moment. Brennan Morris, front rim no good. Rebound contested between Racy and Hawkins is called for the strip there as he maybe caught a little bit of the wrist. He's in a bit of foul trouble at this point as Smith will immediately hop up and replace the Beacons senior center.
And Racy doing a great job right there, obviously being a little more physical than a UMass Boston player and just getting the rebound.
It's an error by our scoreboard operator who just put down that was the 0 foul on number 22 when that should have been the 3rd or 4th foul on number 0. So we don't have the exact numbers. It's very hard to hear the PA up on the concourse level of the Clark Athletic Center. Racy knocks down the first. And the second. Too good from the Ridgefield, Connecticut native who won a New England title at Northfield Mount Herman, one of the better prep schools in New England. Sinelli working from the three-point line, leaves it off for Mitchell. He and Boyd have been very quiet today offensively. Neither guy's been able to find their shot. Sinelli makes the steal on Morris, drives hard, draws contact, can't finish, heads to the line for 2 more. Jason Sinelli is a guy who just does not stop. And that was a really strong play by Sinelli to take it away from Brendan Morris.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys that'll play through and through for you. And you kind of talked about Mitchell and Boyd being
ice cold.
Yeah, you said quiet. And I was going to say they were ice cold. They haven't really been quiet. I've been seeing them shoot a lot. Just a lot hasn't been going in. And obviously there are those games that does happen. But especially as a young freshman, you have to shake it and come back Saturday and tomorrow. I mean, Coach Harris always talks about winning the practice before the day. And I'd like to hear what he says about winning yesterday's practice.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, the Beacons were without so many players, so a big part of yesterday, Sinelli's too strong in the second, was probably figuring out the kind of lineups that UMass Boston would run and who would run the point with no Charlie Mitchell or Ty Lee. Near side, it's Brady over for Racy and back up top. Tufts in no kind of hurry here with a 16-point lead in 5 minutes to go. Adigwe, wide open pace, will pass up on the 3. Leaves it off for Brady, who's very capable. And the ball in and out of the hands of Sinelli, ahead for Mitchell. Smith all alone, goes in, and he's short on the two-hand slam. Overthought that one too many steps, and now the Beacons will foul and transition the other way. And that was a low light on a great night for Jake Smith. If you're a player there, your coach doesn't care if you go up for the dunk, but you better hit it. So that's 2 wasted points for UMass Boston, where in a game, if this was a little bit closer, Jason Harris would be even more irate than he currently is.
Yeah, and you could see on the bench, the faces, you could see it was just honestly a tough look, especially on this type of night. You just got to go in with off the backboard for 2. In a quiet Clark Athletic Center.
That's That's a miss that Smith will remember, as he's going to immediately come off there. Mitchell, who was forced to give the foul, picked up his 4th and the 9th on the Beacons. Dason Sinelli right now is sitting on his 3rd double-double of the year, 12 points and 11 rebounds for UMass Boston. He's had back-to-back double-doubles, and all 3 have come here at home. It's an 18-point game after that 4-point swing. The Beacons miss 2 points and then give up 2 free throws. Boyd trying to go off the glass, well off the mark. Good follow by Hawkins, and it's a 66-50 game with 4:30 to play. Not quite sure why Savage is still out there. I guess the team doesn't have a game on Saturday, so they're giving a little bit more run time to the sophomore out of South Brunswick. Tufts will take on Framingham State before the break, and then they're going to head out to California. 4 California natives on the roster. They're going to travel out to Pomona Pitzer College out on the West Coast on the 28th of December, and then take on Claremont Mudd Scripps on the 29th. Mitchell from the corner and his entire team up off the bench. UMass Boston as close as they've been in a while at 13, and now we've got a foul away from the ball. Sinelli and Savage were tangled up. And now Sinelli looks to be really heated as he had a little bit of a push there with a Tufts player walking through as Tessin will replace him. I don't know what happened, but we saw a Tufts player end up going down hard on the floor.
Yeah, and that's something you don't want, especially at UMass Boston. As a UMass Boston fan, you don't want it to get a little chippy, and especially with a conference game this weekend, you don't want something happening where someone has to get disciplined.
I don't think any of the 3 referees saw it. It was away from the play on the opposite.
I didn't see it.
It was on the opposite side from where the ball was in the backcourt. I don't believe we have it on camera. We'll look at it on the replay. It was pretty far away. But everyone heard it. It was a very hard fall there for a Tufts player, as Sinelli clearly was heated. I'm sure there was a little bit of back and forth. Dason, a pretty affable guy, not the guy who's likely to get heated, as it was Dason and Eric Savage. And on our replay, you can't see it. We see the pass from Savage, and then the camera pans away, as it should. It wasn't anywhere near the play. But an interesting play, the 3rd on Sinelli, who will immediately head off. And right now, the reason we have a stoppage, there wasn't a technical foul assessed, anything like that. It's just the fact that we're in our final media timeout. Tufts, they're ready to go. UMass Boston taking every second of this media timeout, in part to probably cool down some of the emotions. As we'll see 2 free throws upcoming for Savage, with the Beacons bringing out 4 of the same 5. John Tessin replacing Dason Sinelli, who was just called for that foul.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like you were very graphically, Dason Sinelli is kind of describing what happened. And you don't want it to happen in the last 4 minutes of the game. Kind of a tough game, but down only 13 for the Beacons.
Savage is short on the first. On the season, a free throw shooter just at 64%. Not a phenomenal average for a guy who averages 17.9 points a game. Goes 1 for 2 there, and we'll see Thomas Latham check on for Everett Dayton. Actually, it was just Dayton getting up on the bench, warming up a little bit. It's going to be Will Brady checking off, as Dayton does appear as if he'll see some time late in this game. Barnes, pump fakes from 3, dribbles it over for Tessin. Tessin working on Savage, and he's called for the travel. 14-point game with 3:35 to play. We'll see Latham come on for Adigwe. This game was ugly early. The Beacons have fought back. And, Steve, one of the things about taking Dason Sinelli off immediately is Jason Harris is building a culture. He talks about it all the time. He's focused on that. And one of the big things the Beacons want to do is they don't want to be dirty. They don't want to be just because you're a state school, and this is really what other people maybe project on UMass Boston rather than what UMass Boston student-athletes think about themselves is. But as a state school, you get certain kinds of stereotypes about you, and that's not what this Beacons men's basketball team wants to be viewed as.
Yes, and you know, you did go to Boston University.
I did.
The privileged Boston University. I am here at UMass Boston, so I take heart to when people do say state schools are a little different than private schools. Definitely do, but we definitely don't play like that on the field.
UMass Boston, a phenomenal institution on the rise. Lots of new buildings and new programs being added. Barnes over for Boyd. And Boyd will slow it down there in transition. John Tesson wide open for 3. Rims it in and out as Charles Mitchell tried to get the rebound there and ended up hanging on the rim for a moment. Steve, I think I know enough about UMass Boston after working here for 5 years to have positive opinions.
Yes, Seth. I just wanted to joke around a little bit. You know, we know you're a Terrier, not a Beacon, at heart.
Partially true. I think I can have multiple allegiances as Savage is called for the offensive foul. And it'll be UMass Boston ball in front of the Tufts bench. 10 team fouls apiece. So from here on out, we'll get free throws as long as it's not an offensive foul. Charles Mitchell takes the handoff at the top of the key, hands it off for Boyd. 16 on the shot clock. Boyd will try a 3. Front rim, he's been ice cold. Rebound goes to Mitchell. He hits the front of the rim, long rebound, and Savage, the lone jumbo player in the vicinity, grabs the rebound. Running out there with Pace. Pace will slow it down for Latham and over for Everett Dayton. Dayton in no kind of rush here as he'll pull it out with 17 left on the shot clock. Being guarded by Boyd. High pass finds its way over to Savage. Down low for Racy, and they're going to call a reach-in against Hawkins.
And something the Beacons have to do better on Saturday. 2 players, Boyd and Mitchell. They haven't really had great looks tonight. I can definitely credit them to that, but they have to be scorers like they were on Tuesday against Pine Manor.
Well, if Ty Lee or Charlie Mitchell is back, it'll open them up. A lot of times shooters are, well, there's 2 kinds of shooters, at least in my knowledge of basketball.
Gotcha.
You have the shooters who want the ball in their hands, who need the ball in their hands. Russell Westbrook is a guy who can drive, but he's also a very competent shooter. He wants to have the ball as much as possible. And then you have spot-up shooters, and certainly Charles Mitchell is a spot-up shooter. He goes to the corner, he goes to the wing, or he drives. But when he's shooting 3-pointers, he doesn't want to have to create his own space off the dribble. He wants to be found, and he and Charlie have that twin connection. And Boyd is a little bit less of a spot-up shooter, but again, not having a point guard who's able to run the offense, who's able to open up looks, has really put more pressure on those guys to handle the ball tonight, which has been difficult. Step back 3 from Charles Mitchell, and he's off again.
I'll tell you what, that is one of the better descriptions I've ever heard of a basketball term, and it was right to a T. I mean, Mitchell is definitely a spot-up shooter, and when looking at, he's always played with his twin brother, who's a facilitator. So he's always had
first point guard.
Yes, exactly, and he's always had that pass first point guard on his team because his brother's always played on his team. So this is a little different situation where he has to create his own shot, and he hasn't done that tonight.
Beacons not only missing Charlie, also Ty Lee, another player who played with the Mitchell brothers at New Mission High School. As that ball is tapped around for a while like a hot potato. Eventually Mitchell gets it. Just barely lost the dribble. They're able to get it back. Barnes, a contested 3. He's hit 3 of them tonight. UMass Boston back to within 13.
And that's what you like to see if you're UMass Boston. I mean, he hasn't been much of a scorer this year. Obviously, a ticky-tacky foul, not a good look at the end of the game. But that's what you need from Isaac Barnes. He's been doing a good job with. We don't have live stats on us, but I want to say he has about 10, 11 points.
Probably second on the team behind Dason Sinelli in points. And Barnes came into today with hitting 3 of 12 3-pointers. He's now, well, he's taken quite a few of them tonight. No, he's 3 for 3. He's 3 of 3. Charles Mitchell's 2 for 12. But Barnes, that's going to help the old percentage. And it's also showing that Barnes, who was out of shape before the season, he admitted it himself, is continuing to work his way into game shape. Great pass from Smith to find Mitchell for an easy 2. And this game is going to end up looking a lot closer than it was as UMass Boston is cut it down to 12 points with a minute to play.
Yeah, down 28 in the first half. You know, this has been a pretty good. I mean, that's what you have to look at as UMass Boston, a very young team. You have to look at the positives going into a huge game this conference weekend. Obviously, they're 0-1. You can't go 0-2. You have to look at the positives, and I think they played a good job in the last 25, 26 minutes.
Yeah, it was a tough start. I mean, anytime you're down 28 29-1, excuse me, you're going to look up and you're going to think, oh, this game's over. But you have to play it out, and there was a chance to get back into it. If the Beacons had hit a few more shots, could have gotten a really competitive game. They still aren't shooting that well here in the second half. There's 1 of 2, and we've got a free throw violation on the shooter, I believe. I think Everett Dayton knew that it was going to be short, and it was Dayton who was into the lane too fast. So he goes 1 of 2, and with the 3-point shot on this possession, it's a 10-point game with 47 seconds left. Charles Mitchell has Smith if he wants him. Smith looking for options, finds Barnes. Barnes thought about a contested 3. He's called for the up and down. So he got stuck looking for options, and Iser just trying to do a bit too much on that particular possession.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's hot from behind 3, but, you know, he did try to draw some contact and get to the line. They're only down 13. I think they played a very good last 25 minutes, if you ask me, and you just have to take that into Saturday.
Yeah, if you look at the last 25 minutes, UMass Boston has outscored Tufts here by 11 points in the second half as the shot clock is still on. About a 7-second difference between game clock and shot clock. Beacons have probably outscored Tufts by 20 points over the last 25 minutes in this one. There's a deep 2 from Max Oppenheim who shows the range. And while Tufts has been playing their bench players, hasn't been working that hard, it's a good sign. Turnover from Mitchell, and Latham will do the kind gesture of just dribbling out the clock. So the Beacons go down big early. They fight back, end up losing by 15. Steve, some final thoughts before we head to commercial?
Yeah, they have to figure out their offense for Saturday, obviously. They're playing a better Rhode Island college, and they have to really play to that level. And it should be interesting to hear what Coach Harris has to say. And we'll send it down to you, Seth, with an interview.
2-2 pitch, swung on and missed.
Kyle Strowski from Agawam, Massachusetts. I'm a senior here at UMass Boston. I'm a marketing major. Probably have to say my favorite moment was my no-hitter my freshman year. Being a freshman, especially just making a statement right away. Seeing the reactions on the seniors' faces, it was something that was a lot of fun to be a part of. If you want to play and you want to compete for championship every year, definitely UMass Boston is a good place to come look at.
And now, this one's launched, right center field. That's going to win the game for the Beacons. It is down.
LEC is probably best division in college D3 baseball in the country. Play against the top competition every year. I think we have a top 10 schedule in the country this year.
Joined by head coach Jason Harris. Coach, you outscored them in the second half, probably outscored them by a decent amount over the last 25 minutes. Is there a moral victory in that after such a slow start with such a young group?
No.
Looking at one of the players who had barely seen any time, Jake Smith, brought the physicality today, rebounded pretty well against some big guys. How is that going to help his evolution in gaining him some confidence and maybe showing you some things that you didn't know he could do?
I know Jake's a physical kid, you know, but part of our problem is, you know, just the undisciplinedness to go for the dunk when we're tired. And, you know, I haven't seen Jake dunk all year in practice, and there's just not the time to go for it. But he did play hard. You know, it's not the reason we lost, but it just kind of shows all of our promise and immaturity all at one time, all in one play. So
we were talking about it on the broadcast, but how much did not having a true point guard on the floor hurt Mike Boyd and Charles Mitchell, two guys who were phenomenal shooters, who were maybe doing a little bit more than they would like to have to do on offense tonight?
If that's what you want to go with. I mean, both those kids were point guards in college. I mean, I won't give them that out. I mean, they played hard, they competed. They played probably 80 minutes the last 3 days, you know, but I'm sorry. Like, they're young kids, man. If you can't play 80 minutes in 3 days, I mean, you know, they played hard and they played point guard in college, and they just didn't make shots tonight. You know, I don't think it's because they didn't have a true point guard on the floor, and, you know.
One last one, 40 more minutes on Saturday against Rhode Island College. A big game for both teams at 0-1 in conference play. What are you going to focus on tomorrow at practice in terms of attacking the Anchorman?
Well, I think the first thing we do, you know, is probably rest a little bit. We got some banged up guys, so we need to get those guys back. We got to get some shots up tomorrow. Obviously, you didn't shoot the ball very well. We're going to shoot free throws tomorrow, and I think it'll be a mental day. You know, it's a long year, and these kids have never been through something so long like this, but you know, South, it's league play. So if you need a drill to get prepared for the league, then, you know, you're in the wrong conference. I don't know what to tell you.
Coach, thanks so much for your time. Good luck on Saturday. Beacons in the midst of 6 games in 13 days. They're 1-2 at this point, hoping to even up that record on Saturday. We'll head back up top right now, take a look at the highlights from the second half, and then bring you our post-game show here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Yeah, we're going to go to highlights right now. Obviously, not too many highlights, but more highlights for UMass Boston in the second half. We're going to start it off with a beautiful save by Jason Sinelli, which then led into a easy basket for UMass Boston on the second try. And Tufts jumper right here. They've been very good from behind the arc all night. And right here, just a beautiful jumper. And UMass Boston, a better second half offense. Beautiful shot by Isler Barnes here, bottom of the net. Another shot right here by Boyd, which very hot last game. Need him back on Saturday for UMass Boston. Charlie Mitchell, his only 3 of the game. And UMass Boston just has to be better behind the arc when shooting. And obviously the Mitchell layup. We're going to go back to Seth here. Seth, obviously you talked to Coach Harris. What do you think you took away from that interview?
Well, I think that Coach Harris recognizes the difficulties of the college game. You see the transition from high school to college, college to the NBA. In high school, you do play a lot of games, but you don't start until December, and the season ends 3 to 4 weeks before the end of the college season. So you're talking about a much shorter span, whereas UMass Boston started practices October 15th, first game November 15th. They played a lot of games here even before break. Some high school teams play 2 or 3 games before January, and then the NBA, you're talking about a much longer season than college. So there is a transition, but he's not taking excuses because none of these other teams care. And we saw what happened the first year under Jason Harris when the Beacons had a very young team, very inexperienced team with not a lot of talent back after he came in very late. He wasn't hired until June or July that summer, so it was difficult to recruit. The Beacons started off, I think, 5-5, and then went through a really bad spell second semester, ended up 6-19. Jason Harris is a guy who doesn't like to lose, doesn't accept losing, so he doesn't want to see that snowball effect with an equally young team here, although much more talented.
And something to look at, I think, when going into this part is the depth, really. I mean, they didn't have much depth on that team that you were talking about before, but this team, it seemed tonight that they didn't have much depth either. And you don't want to get after this break and have the same problem. Obviously, it's a huge game on Saturday, but looking at for the rest of the season, if they have 7-6 guys that can really play, I mean, that's scary.
Well, you had 4 guys who weren't available tonight who are in every game. Kevin Lewis-Jean's a starter. Charlie Mitchell's playing 20 to 25 minutes, all off the bench, but he might as well be a starter because he's seeing starter minutes. Bernard Taylor doesn't see as much time, 10 to 12 minutes, but he's another athletic body, would have helped tonight with his rebounding capability. He's a 3-point shooter who can space the floor a little bit, so that hurt. And Ty Lee's a guy who, when he's playing well, is your number 1 point guard, is a guy who's playing 25 to 30 minutes. He's first on the team in assists per game, 3rd in the conference. Those guys are all going to help you. So, yes, the depth wasn't there tonight. If you get those 4, and don't forget, Dan Powers back for second semester, those are 5 guys who could really help you. Now, they're not available tonight, and some of them might not be available Saturday, but this team does have some extra depth coming back if you're just looking at tonight's perspective.
Yeah, and I think if they were here tonight, I mean, I would be interested to see how that game would have played out, because I think the Beacons really did run with them, played with them, but they just couldn't, obviously, after the 29-1 start, couldn't pick up from there.
Let's take a look right now at the team statistics. UMass Boston did not shoot particularly well in that first half when they were outscored 42-18. They ended up losing 73-58. And Steve, when you look at the second half, UMass Boston ended up shooting 34.2%, which is a nice 20% improvement, just 24.6% for the game. Tufts didn't play all that well, Steve. I don't think their coaching staff, their players would disagree. They ended up shooting 37% from the field, 31% from distance. The rebounding within 6. UMass Boston did a really nice job in terms of the effort there, and just 12 turnovers for the Beacons.
Yes, one of these numbers that really point out to me is the fact that the free throw percentage, they really struggled with that all season long. Obviously, 72% not that bad, but definitely improving, and that's going to be huge this weekend, Saturday, when Rhode Island College comes here.
Take a look right now at the team leaders. I think we have them ready. UMass Boston ended up with 3 players in double digits. Charles Mitchell led the team with 14 on 20 total shots. Dason Sinelli ended up with 12 and 12, excuse me, and Iser Barnes had 12 points on an efficient 4 of 7. On the other side, it was the freshman.
Charles Mitchell's had, he did have 14. I was looking at the rebound. Sorry, I didn't think he scored that much.
Yeah, well, they did it on a lot of shots, 5 of 20, 2 of 12 from distance, but in the end ended up with 14, just below his season average. Luke Rogers, 14 points and 7 rebounds, a great game for the freshman big who was coming back from an injury. Pace with 13 points in limited minutes. Right now we'll take...
And you really sang Jake Smith's praise to Coach Harris. Obviously, he was upset about the
one play.
The one play, the dunk opportunity. A little embarrassing on his part. But, I thought he played a very good game. If he just would have just went up with 2 hands and laid it in, he would have had a pretty good game.
9 points and 6 rebounds for Smith in 18 minutes. We'll take a look ahead for UMass Boston. I mentioned this is game 3 of 6. The Beacons with 3 more before break starts. They're at home against Rhode Island College on Saturday, then back on the road, a local game against Suffolk on Tuesday night, and they'll close out first semester play next Thursday at 5 p.m. Steve and I will be on the call. Right now, we'll take a moment to thank our production crew. Doing a great job tonight for this non-conference matchup. My name is Seth Dorensky, your producer and play-by-play guy. Steve Witkowski, color commentating. Alyssa Fugel and Charlie Hughey directing. Alex Gibbs on instant replay. Bree Colucci, Cassie Murphy, and Mike Mulligan, our camera operators.
And supervisor, Alex Carasota.
Yeah, that might have been a late addition to the graphic. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Tufts University, a 73-58 win. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back on Saturday at 1 p.m. with Steve Witkowski and Alex Barth on the call of the women's game, with the men's game coming up 20 minutes after the conclusion of game number 1.